Comparison price for Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. 2525 presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the Historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sakaris, Blake Price, Mike Rogerson, all his Junos hitting switches, conducting things. Oh, yes. My. Well, just as the season turns for the Vancouver Canucks. When we signed off yesterday, at least we signed off of the opening block yesterday, we were awaiting Jeff Patterson in the bowels of Rogers Arena for Adam Foote's, routine media availability. And it had been about, it was about an hour delayed. And we were thinking something's got to be up there. Turns out something was up. We will get to that in a moment. First, the Redwoods Golf Course poll question. Who should be the first veteran traded by the Vancouver Canucks? Connor Garland, Evander Kane, Kiefer Sherwood, Drew O'Connor. Feel free to go off the board. Write in someone different if you so feel at the Sakaris and Price X and YouTube channels. And yes, that meeting, and we'll get into it in a moment, seems like it was part of Canucks soul searching this week after that loss to the 31st place Calgary Flames Sunday on home ice. After watching this season in the first quarter sink already to a chase position in the NHL's Western Conference playoff race. And so the club is coming out and, they're talking about making trades. Unclear if this is to try and save the season or the first marker in a rebuild. I presume it's the former, simply because we know the way this club's ownership has operated. But have first crack at it, Mr. Price. Who should be the first veteran traded?
Well, there's nobody on this team that's a veteran that has played themselves off the team. Let's just put it that way. Nobody has been so atrocious in and of themselves. The problem with the Vancouver Canucks is the collection. I don't know that it is one particular or two particular players underachieving to such a degree that it has cost this team. Name the player who's played absolutely terribly that you needed to play great. I don't think there's a list there, Matt. So there's nobody being ridden out of town. But given the cap hits and bottom line of some players and contract status, that's where I think you fall on certain players. And, I'm ready for the Canucks to trade Connor Garland eventually, not because he's been terrible again. He's been very good, but because he has value. But right now, the question is, where do they start? That's what we've asked.
Yes.
And because of that, I'm going to the guy with the biggest cap hit, and that's Evander Kane.
The only problem with trading Evander Kane is he's going to return very little. Mm-hmm. Nobody is giving you a young player for Evander Kane, or if they are giving you a very flawed young player for Evander Kane. Even Evander Kane at 50% retention, I'm not sure brings you a young player that drops into the lineup. There was reportedly 3 teams interested in Kane when the Oilers put him on the block this summer, and the Canucks got him for, a 4th-round draft pick? Mm-hmm. Now, that was at full freight, but it's not like Evander Kane has enhanced his trade value here in the 23 games that he's played. He's 11 points. He's 8 even strength points, and that's despite being one of the most used even strength forwards in all the NHL. He's lost his spot on the first power play. I mean, he's old. He's had injuries. And he's got some trade protection. So I'm if you want to say he's the first vet out, okay, fair enough. Experiment gone wrong. But, that's not changing the price of bread either in terms of this season or the future.
The context is, I think it should be followed very soon after by the trade of Kiefer Sherwood as well.
So if the object is try to save this season, then the answer is Connor Garland, because he's the only guy who gives you a remote chance of getting a serviceable center back. Will be an imperfect second-line center, may only even be a third-line center, because you don't tend to get that quality of center for a winger. There's a position premium here. Garland is surely a top six winger, but he's not going to return a top six center. Or if he does, it's an imperfect one, too old, too expensive, too underachieving, something of that order. If the object is to get a young player or draft picks, assets that will help you for next season and beyond, then the answer is Kiefer Sherwood, because he's a UFA and you want to trade him while he's on a heater, and importantly, before he gets hurt in this season where seemingly everyone is getting hurt.
The one thing that we don't know, though, with regards to Kiefer Sherwood, is where the Canucks and he are actually at in contract negotiations. By all accounts, it hasn't really happened. And the one outlying possibility in Kiefer Sherwood's, and again, he's getting a big raise, but how big, we don't know. And for how long, we don't know. Like, there's a chance that Kiefer Sherwood absolutely loves being a Vancouver Canuck. And I say discount, it's a lowercase d, because again, he's getting a big raise. But rather than something that begins with a 5, if it's something that begins in the high 3s or low 4s and it's on only a 3-year deal, do the Canucks feel, I don't know, we can still use that guy?
Just reading the insiders, it seems like there have been some opening salvos on a contract extension for Sherwood that haven't gone very far, and I can understand why, because if you're Kiefer Sherwood, you had an excellent season last year. You're having an excellent start to this season. The club you're negotiating with is desperate, so of course you ask for sun, moon, and stars.
Yeah. It's your one chance, because you're not getting another chance in your career.
But even beyond that, Blake, you have all the leverage right now.
Yeah.
You're an indispensable player to this hockey team, and this hockey team still isn't good enough with you there.
But for the good of his kids and his retirement, he really should just go to the highest bidder. Like, he's not been paid well up until this point for his hockey career. He deserves to make as much money as he can.
The thing is that for any team acquiring Kiefer Sherwood, you want to acquire him for futures, right? You don't want to have to subtract from your team right now. And so trading Sherwood, unless you're trading him for a UFA to be on another team at a position like center where you need help, that's a very narrow channel to run. That's a difficult
you're
trade
assuming through the lens of this question that the question is assuming that you're trying to be better this season. And the question doesn't necessarily assume that. We don't say that as a condition of the question. In order to get better, who should the Canucks
fair
trade?
enough. Kiefer Sherwood, if you're trading him purely for futures, should get you a first-round draft pick or a prospect equivalent to a first-round draft pick. I read where Grant said they want at least a second-round pick for him. To me, that's selling low right now. If that's the best offer right now, then I'm inclined to hang on to Kiefer Sherwood. Hope he stays healthy. Hope he continues it, because I think at the deadline, that's a first-round pick. Teams get a little
context matters. If it's the 35th pick, I can imagine it. But you're not going to get
that's one of the worst teams in the league,
right? But you're not going to get that team's first-round pick, right? So in order to open up the market a little bit, a top 35, top 40 pick, I think I could stomach that.
Yeah, I think I'd want a little more. The guy's $1.5 million. He led the NHL in hits last year. We saw how good a playoff performer he was in that Nashville series against the Canucks, where he was all over them. And he's got 12 goals in 23 games. He's on a 40-goal pace.
No, what you would guess is he goes to a contender that wants a physical winger, a guy that'll show up in the playoffs, all that. And that means a contender is probably in the final, the top third of the league. So that means something in the 20s of the first round. So that's the most likely scenario. Yeah.
Do you think Garland could return them a serviceable center that gets them further ahead this year?
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a coin toss sort of scenario, though. It's like, I don't think Connor Garland gets you Pavel Zacha, that level of guy. It's going to be somebody below that level, I think, even. Unless you sweetened it. If it's Connor Garland.
Yeah, there could be secondary parts that gets you to that sort of center iceman. And here's the thing. I have people asking me about, Garland and what he can get, and they tried to trade him a few years ago. He is a much better player than he was 3 years ago when they were trying to trade him.
Mm-hmm. Said the best seasons of his life almost since then.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And his extension is actually an asset when looking at trading him. He's $6 million starting next year and beyond. I mean, he's damn near $5 million right now. Mm-hmm. 3 years ago, he was an underachieving $5 million winger. Now he's a winger that is worth every penny of the $5 million you're paying him and should be worth every penny of the $6 million you're paying him going forward beyond this season in an environment where everybody is awash in cap. Well, most teams have cap space. Cap space is aplenty. 3 years ago, cap space was so tight that it was dollar for dollar. It was difficult consummating trades. So he is a much more pliable asset, and I think much more likely to return something of value right now than he was 3 years ago. And the other thing we should just clear up, because I see some people are confused on this, Garland's trade protection kicks in with this contract extension next summer. Right now, he has no trade protection. So you're dealing with the entirety of the NHL as opposed to Evander Kane, who's got a 16-team trade list. So that's half the league. And typically what happens is the player and the agent sit down and they craft those 16 teams, and they put a bunch of teams in there that they know have no interest in acquiring him to further winnow the list of potential trade partners down. Like, it's not uncommon for, a team to put, or for an agent and a player to put down a team like Calgary, who's rebuilding and has no need for a mid-30s winger, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, it was this time last year, roughly, when JT Müller had his tantrum and the Canucks season, needless to say, took a turn. And here we are in late November, U.S. Thanksgiving again, discussing potentially another watershed moment, or at least decision, from the Vancouver Canucks and Canucks Sports Entertainment about this team going forward and how it should be cast. Our friends at the Redwoods Golf Course specialize in doing custom corporate events, and boy, can you have some fun with your group out there. They have the large, heated, covered driving range, so you'll stay warm, you'll stay dry, hit some golf balls. There'll be some who will be amazing at this. Some won't be so amazing. You'll have some laughs. Their lead teaching professional, Craig, you can bring him into the activities, pick up some pointers from him. And if you have a child age 6 to 16, set them up for the sport of a lifetime. Private and semi-private lessons available at the Redwoods. Go to redwoods-golf.com. Let's get to our top story. It's brought to you by Yellow Dog Imaging, or Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing.
Imaging? Where did
Let's
that
get
come
the
from?
Yellow Dog Imaging up, Mike. Neighborhood Brewing.
For them, yeah.
Every day I send him a note about where the imaging goes. Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Save the Season Summit. Canucks management joined Adam Foote, Captain Quinn Hughes for a long meeting yesterday in the coach's office. The club emerges talking about trading veterans. This stops short of rebuilding and trading Quinn Hughes, rather pending unrestricted free agents and veterans with term, according to Elliot Friedman. Canucks news summaries, good lists there. Who this could mean? It means Evander Kane, a UFA with a 16-team no-trade list. Connor Garland, who does not have trade protection until next summer. Kiefer Sherwood, the UFA with no trade protection. Drew O'Connor, who has a 12-team no-trade list but is under term, and then maybe center Teddy Bluger, defenseman Derek Forbort, goaltender Thatcher Demko, should they ever get healthy. Incidentally, forwards Linus Karlsson and Max Sassone also potentially free agents, unrestricted free agents at the end of the season. If you go to Cap Wages or Puckpedia, you will see them listed as unrestricted free agents, Group 6. It is a carve-out for sort of the veteran minor leaguer that gets them to NHL unrestricted free agency earlier than they otherwise would. They have to meet 3 criteria in order to be Group 6 unrestricted free agents. They have to be 25 years of age or older, and Sassone and Linus Karlsson check that box. They have to have played fewer than 80 NHL games, and I haven't done the math yet, but if they continue to play the rest of this season, they may get out of this status. And they have to have completed at least 3 professional seasons, and that is also the case for Sassone.
Worst poll question ever. What is your favorite kind of free agent, the UFA Group 6 or the 10-2C?
Well, the 10-2C is an RFA.
That's right. Yes. Your favorite kind of free agent, I'll say.
Okay.
10-2C or UFA Group 6. Pick your poison. And it is poison for Matt. I can't believe he went that deep into the Group 6 right there.
Well, only because it's now relevant. I had noticed it all season long, but I wasn't going to get into it.
Oh, okay.
But now we're talking about we're trading unrestricted free agents. They could very well
You want to
qualify.
know if they're on the menu?
Well, Sassone has played 49 NHL games. So if he does play 30-plus more games this year, then he would come back off the pack of Group 6 unrestricted free agents. And Linus Karlsson, who, again, professional seasons in Sweden as well as in the AHL, he's at 47 games. So for him, it's even a couple more games. Anyways.
May we never mention Group 6 free agents ever again.
Bottom line is play Linus Karlsson and Max Sassone, and that way that you may not expose them to Group 6.
I don't think they're getting you that second-line center either. So,
No.
I mean, ultimately, we said this at the start of the season, that if things went pear-shaped, there actually isn't. Again, this is a funny team. There is not a really bad contract on the team. Like, you know, under a lot of other years, you'd be like, oh, you just got to clear some space, get so-and-so's contract off the book. Like, there is no obvious player to trade because of poor performance. There is no obvious player to trade because of terrible contracts. It's just not a good team. I don't know what to say. Like, it's just not a good team. It doesn't work. It's not enough star power.
Yeah.
There's not an easy way out.
No.
For the Vancouver Canucks.
The other players either have trade protection, full no-move clause for Elias Pettersson, Jake DeBrusk, Philip Hronek, Tyler Myers, Marcus Pettersson, and Kevin Lankinen, or they don't qualify as veteran players, or they have no real trade value, and we have omitted them.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean those with no-move clauses would decline an opportunity to move elsewhere. We have seen from Jim Rutherford in this management group, they are willing to cross that divide. Many view it as poor form because you negotiate the no-move clause in. It's like reopening negotiations on the contract, but other management groups have been willing to push that on players, including this one. It is not typically well received by agents and players, but it doesn't mean that a deal can't get done with one of those guys. Of course, they would control the process and limit the Canucks' options in terms of which teams they would be willing to accept a trade to, and that, of course, in turn would affect the quality of return coming back.
The only candidates
if you're dealing
for
in a
that,
smaller pool.
The only candidates for that are Jake DeBrusk and Tyler Myers, really. That really move.
So Tyler Myers has a child with special medical needs that are taken care of quite well, is my understanding here in British Columbia.
That has been the case.
Current
We
medical care that the child is getting. So, yeah,
we don't know
unless something has changed on that
we don't know the current
front,
level. That was
I don't
the case.
believe Tyler Myers would say, yeah, he lives in Kelowna now. He's a full-time British Columbia resident year-round. His contract next year does provide for some trade possibility. Yes, he's got a modified no-trade clause. It's a 12-team trade list in his final year that kicks in at a certain point. So I think there's no chance that Tyler Myers accepts a trade until that criteria is met.
I also just think, from a Canucks perspective, what you get for him is fairly insignificant, and it's just 1 year remaining at a relatively palatable $3 million. So it's not an urgent thing.
Right.
Jake DeBrusk is the other guy I mentioned on a no move clause. Again, he's done nothing necessarily wrong, but he's got a lot of term left and would have some value on the trade market.
And who knows, DeBrusk, Marcus Pettersson, they're relatively new. They could have, be taking a look around and be going, oh my God, what a shit show that I'm here. I'm in the midst of.
Marcus Pettersson's, I think, a little less likely because they brought him in specifically.
And he knows the management group, and he signed the contract extension quickly.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But, feelings change, teams change. And if you're staring down the barrel of a team that's uncompetitive and may well rebuild, this whole list could say, no, hey, get me out of here. I'm willing to accept
it's possible.
a trade and waive the no move. The agent, Alan Walsh, for Philip Roenick has already tweeted about how people speculate with trades on guys with no move clauses. So we're taking that as a no from Alan and Philip. I think that might actually be.
And that was a no-brainer for me anyway, but he's 28. He's young enough that he can survive.
And he's been excellent this year, and maybe the best player in terms of understanding what Foote and his coaching staff want to do defensively.
But even
Canucks
if
Army has
the Canucks committed to a rebuild, 3-4 years of rebuild, he's still only a 31, 32-year-old defenseman.
Right shot defenseman.
Yeah. So
who's good on both ends of the ice. So
he's not a priority to move at all.
I wouldn't think. Mm-hmm. Plus, he and his agent don't seem to be the most agreeable people.
Yeah, I would. I would like them to ask him to waive it because I would love to hear that phone call.
Oh, I would love to see the tweet.
Yes, you would not
I'm
believe.
Sure he will be shocked, appalled, galled at the mere suggestion that his client, Phil Roenick. Anyways, enough about him. Now, as Darren Dreger will tell us coming up here, and we did talk to Dregs this morning, and Darren will be starting up with us weekly now. We've reached insider season again. The Canucks have not crossed the divide of thinking about discussing with Quinn Hughes, trading Quinn Hughes. It is unclear whether they are going to consult their captain on that file. I saw Saravelli saying he thinks that might happen over the holiday break. I've seen others speculate that may be over the Olympic break before Quinn goes and joins Team USA for their Milano Cortina gold medal bid. We have talked about the NHL trade deadline, the first week of March, being an important marker because you are more likely to get full value for Quinn Hughes if you're sending him out to a team with who knows they'll get him for a couple of postseason runs at minimum, as opposed to just the 1 year if you move on this file in the summer. But, of course, there is the flip side of you want to be able to present him the Godfather offer in the summer and see if, in fact, he will say no to the richest contract in NHL history. So we've talked about it. It is prudent for the Canucks to go to Quinn Hughes and his representative if this season gets away from them. We also know how this owner operates. We have kicked cans down the road for the better part of 12 years. We have only made the tough decisions when faced with the immediacy of those tough decisions, and we have tried to convince players to stay here like Ryan Kessler, even when the writing was on the wall. So set that aside for one moment. What I'm more interested in, and especially since So as JPAT tells it, that media availability was supposed to, for those who don't know, practice goes about an hour. Then player media availability is done sometimes, or in the old days, it involved opening up the dressing room and talking to players. Now it's seemingly done with more who do you want, and they bring players out. And then like 15 minutes later, the head coach speaks. This is the routine for just about every NHL team on a day-to-day basis on a practice availability day. So the media is assembled down there. They're waiting on Adam Foote. They're waiting on Adam Foote. They're waiting on Adam Foote. People see Rutherford and Alvin going into the office. And then Adam Foote emerges with his comments, and he gets asked a question about Quinn Hughes and the ice time that the Canucks captain is logging. And he says something along the lines of, do you have a bug in the coach's office? I was just in there talking to Quinn now about shift length and time on ice and condensed schedule and all those things. So to the best we can tell, the captain was in that room with the head coach, and the management team was in that room as well yesterday. It is unclear if they are going to consult Hughes on whom to trade. You may remember Rutherford allowed in the summer that they were going to bring Quinn Hughes into the process of who do you want as the next head coach, and Quinn declined. He didn't want that responsibility on his shoulders. Players play, managers manage, that sort of worldview. And they wound up picking a coach for whom Quinn Hughes had great affection. So he effectively got a say in the head coaching search without having to be in the room or be officially consulted. And you may say to yourself, well, they're going to consult a player who may be on his way out the door on trades. Well, see, there's a reason why NBA teams do this. They bring the superstar player into the fold and into the discussion about who needs to be here, who is movable, who do you want out there. They do that because they want to extend the star player's career with their organization as long as possible.
Way different sport, obviously. One impact player makes all the difference in the NBA, does not make that difference in the National Hockey League.
But it does with this team, Blake.
In what sense?
Well, we've talked about when Quinn Hughes is on the ice and when Quinn Hughes is not on the ice for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yes, but you're not getting another Quinn Hughes via trade.
No, of course not. But what I'm saying is it would be a real shame to go through a process where you were trading out veteran players without knowing where Quinn Hughes stands on them. Like if he views some of these guys as part of the solution for the Vancouver Canucks, then you wouldn't want to trade those players and find that out later from Hughes. That would diminish your chances of re-signing him in the summer. So I think you have to bring Quinn Hughes into that discussion now, even if it's irregular, even if it's uncomfortable. Okay, Quinn, we're at a crossroads here. Who's part of the solution? Who can this team do without?
I mean, if you want to frame it as, hey, we want some feedback on what's working in the room, what's working on the ice, what's not, sure. But God, no, on permission. There's no permission that you go to seek from a player that is halfway out the door already. Not
no, of course
a
not.
chance.
No, managers make decisions.
Yes, yeah.
AGMs, coaches,
if you're talking about gathering
players,
feedback, yeah. I mean, I would hope you gather feedback all the time. I mean,
we've talked about this a million times. Don't blame AGMs, scouts. Managers make decisions. The rest make recommendations. I think you need Quinn Hughes' recommendations here. It would be foolish. You are going forward without the operational intel you absolutely require if you completely keep Quinn Hughes at arm's length and do not bring him into the process on this.
Well, one, I don't think they ask him who we should trade. I think you're going to say, who can you not do without? Who is integral to you? They're not going to say
you ask questions like, how is Evander Kane working out? And you get his feedback.
Sure. But he's not going to throw guys fully under the bus. He's not going to say, yeah, I could see us making a deal. I know kind of how hockey players work. They won't do that.
I understand that. But you are at a brass tacks moment here, Blake. Like this is not regular course of NHL business.
We have seen irregular courses before.
The greatest player in the history of the franchise in your fold, as well as trying to compete. A, save this season as best you can. B, set the team up next season so it's as attractive as possible to Quinn Hughes.
It's fine to lay that out.
These are
there
very
is no
irregular,
chance
unusual
he's throwing his teammates under the bus and saying you should trade
like if
this
it's
guy.
behind closed doors.
No. It's what I would guess. If you want me to role play what I think happened back there, I'm going to guess that they said, "Listen, we wanted to bring you in here to let you know we're hoping to make some moves here, but we don't want you to panic and think that this is a rebuild." That we're trading away for futures and that we're throwing the white flag up here. We're going to make trades that we think will make this team better and that we're in your corner to make this season a winning season. That's what I think.
And all I'm saying is the evolution of sports and leagues, and the NHL always trails the other ones. The franchise quarterback gets brought into the room and given a voice. The franchise player in the NBA gets brought into the room and given a voice. And I think you absolutely have to give Quinn Hughes voice in what you're doing in terms of trades and player transactions for the remainder of this season.
Voice is nebulous. A voice, yes. But not the same as I would if the guy had 8 years.
He's just got to have a seat at the table.
But if he's got 8 years left on his contract, abso-frickin-lutely. I'm way more likely
But you're
to give him
hoping
the
he
key.
has 8 years left on his
Yeah, but
contract.
you're pretty sure he doesn't. And you're not going to bend to the whims of him when he's gone in 12 months.
And that is a decision that the managers are going to have to make.
And they would be silly.
If Hughes says, I think this guy and this team can really help our group, then I think it would very much behoove the Canucks to go and see what that player costs.
Yeah.
Now, do they bend over backwards and make and overpay to a huge degree just to satisfy the star player? That's where you have to make the value judgment as the manager. But what you do know is if this season continues to go the way it's going right now, your chances of getting this player locked up long term are very small.
I think they're very small right now. And, and the
with very few
avenues to make it better.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, that's why you don't move sun, moon, and stars.
If you're
for
not
this player.
consulting Quinn Hughes, then effectively you have crossed the psychological divide of we're moving Quinn Hughes at some point, whether it's this deadline or in the summer, right?
Well, there's a narrow path in the middle of taking some of his concerns, using them as education for moves that you try to make.
Fair enough.
But if you can't make them, you do not move sun, moon, and stars for this player without his commitment.
Fair enough. We have reached consensus, partner.
Mm-hmm.
It only took, Mike, did you have a clock on that? Was that 15 minutes? Was that 12 minutes?
About 16.
16?
Yeah. There you go.
This is why our partnership has held up so well over 14 years. And by the way, happy anniversary. It was last week. Canucks lost further ground in the playoff chase last night. Blake hates birthdays and anniversaries. We don't ever note them on the show. We got to the 10-year anniversary. Are we going to say something on the show? Blake's like, nah, it's only 10 years.
No one cares.
Come next year, 15, Mike, make a note. Maybe some donuts or something, like really small. Muted. He likes no fuss. They lost further ground in the playoff chase last night thanks to the Utah 5-1 victory over Vegas. Mammoth are on the final wildcard spot in the West. They are now 7 points up on the Vancouver Canucks, and there are 5 teams between them. So the work has only gotten more difficult to save this season. And should also mention Adam Foote refused to make this a make-or-break 4-game road trip yesterday when asked about the importance of this trip. Starts in Anaheim. He says, it's pro sports. You've got to win every game. And he said he wasn't going to allow anyone to take his focus off game by game, period by period.
That was before we learned of a bit of news that we're going to tell you about in 2 seconds, however. But first, I'm going to tell you about the Amigos Black Lager neighborhood has just taken everything you think about Mexican beer and turned it on its ear. This is the Black Dark Lager, the darker side of good times. This dark lager brings a touch more attitude with rich malt depth, just the right amount of smoothness to keep things easy drinking. Same spirit, new vibe. Beer for friends, made by your friends at Neighborhood Brewing.
Now, Foote's going period by period, game by game. Believe it or not, that was not the most discussed answer that he gave yesterday. It seems the Canucks head coach is going to rely on the team's in-house data more so than respond to questions about the publicly available data on things like high danger scoring chances. That's to the end of how much he incorporates that data to begin with. But here we go. He's asked a question about high danger scoring chances, and here's what the head coach had to say.
There's a ton of things. Everyone thinks I'm just positive, but there's a ton of things I'm real happy about. I mean, but I'm more happy with wins, but I'm not gonna blow up a kid or something being overanalyzed by, no disrespect, people that really don't know, but they're just looking at numbers from people that could be in Russia in a basement having cigarettes, cashews, telling their scoring chances. So we're going to depend on our guys, and really recognize what we believe has to be fixed and what doesn't. But to answer your guys' really good questions, you're right, bang on about we got to get guys faster, sooner, and close it. So, we got to keep teaching them.
There is.
I don't know about you, but I have had, I don't know how many people reach out to me about, is that a real quote? Like Frank Corrado texted us both yesterday. He goes, is that Canucks Twitter having fun, or was that a real quote?
Now, the young me would have gotten upset with this, and my younger counterparts now in this market got pretty upset about it.
You're talking about like butthurt analytics folks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would have been upset about this 15 years ago probably too if I heard it. What I heard there was a guy that did not throw analytics under the bus.
He didn't.
He said he's going to rely on the in-house analytics.
Yep. Which is fine.
Not the third-party analytics. And he was also making a joke.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, there is variance when you go shop to shop on
what
the folks who accumulate analytics.
Yeah.
Like, you will find differences in terms of who described, like, what Natural Stat Trick says about a high danger chance and what another
Money
firm,
Puck or whoever.
What another firm might. I completely get. And you're right. For the most part, Adam Foote has at the very least paid lip service, if not is a true believer on analytics, just the stuff that's provided to him by the Canucks data analysts. And so I can understand him wanting to be funny. I can also understand him wanting to demean the data that others rely on. But where do you find cashews and cigarettes in combination?
It's
like is that an oft-used insult from Coach and the Foote family?
I'm not a smoker, but I would guess something more palate cleansing would be in order, not something pasty like a cashew if you're having a butt.
Did he make up cashews and cigarettes on the spot like a flash of eloquence? Is it a borrowed phrase? Did someone else use it with him? Or are there, in fact, Russian hockey analytics troll farms where data is being compiled amongst cigarette-smoking, cashew-snacking Russians posing as social media bots?
I'm picturing a guy in a maroon velvet tracksuit.
Oh, I thought you were going to say smoking jacket.
Smoke-filled room. No, smoking jacket. No. It's not a high-class bot farm. This is maybe it's a Kappa tracksuit. Zip down just so. Gold chain.
Chesties.
Shaved head. And just bowls of cashews everywhere. Smoke-filled room.
Cashews is the one nut you eat out of a bowl, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
Peanuts are out of a bag for them. Cashews, you put those in a nice china candy dish.
We've got new shipment of Corsi 4 coming in. Go check the truck.
Break out the cashews.
I think the Sakaris and Price album, this is our name.
Does somebody have a light?
They sent Fenwick again. I asked for Corsi. I don't think it happened.
I mean, for a coach who doesn't want to elaborate on a lot of topics, he sure went deep on where other data firms get their analytics.
No freaking PDO.
Yet. Da.
Oh, gosh.
All joking aside, though, everyone, needless to say, a refusal to understand analytics in today's day and age shortens a coach's shelf life. We do not believe that's the case with Adam Foote. But you know what else shortens a coach's shelf life? Unserious and ridicule-inducing answers to legitimate questions. Foote may not know it now, but he's going to have to do a lot of winning to get over cashews and cigarettes. Because across the NHL today, he's the coach who name-checked cashews and cigarettes. And you're going to have to get a long way down the road to put that in the rearview mirror. Tough habits to break.
But again, you're not
Tough
listening.
answer to get over.
Anybody with that attitude, not you, but anybody with that attitude is not. He did double back around and said it's a very good question, and more specifically, you're right to whoever asked the question. We've got to. I think he was talking about gaps on players in the defensive zone. We've got to get there quicker. So it sounded like a flippant and anti-analytics rant, and in actuality, it wasn't. It was more about the proprietary stuff that he wanted to adhere to rather than the public stuff.
Yeah, but Blake, we've talked about this in the past. Your head coach is a representative of your organization.
Yep.
And so when you have a head coach who loses his cool or just gives an answer that becomes a social media meme soundbite, and again, the object of ridicule, it is difficult to get over that. And we've gone through the examples, right? Mike Gundy, the football coach, I'm a man, I'm 40. Mike Singletary, the football coach, can't play with him, can't coach with him, can't win with him, can't do it. Denny Green, they are who we thought they were. We let them off the hook. These are mostly playoffs. Jim Mora, playoffs. And then the other one, Diddley Poo, we sucked out there. When you drop Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. When you drop an answer like that, that becomes the lead in your story.
Unless you do the Jim Rutherford thing and you just keep dropping bangers, and then the ones at the back get dropped. Like, remember we were in a pickle?
Yeah.
I
need to zip it.
We don't even talk about that anymore because now we've got more expensive not to.
Yeah.
So you just got to keep dropping them.
Yeah. So just cashews and cigarettes are going to follow Foote around here. And yet, Blake, I didn't think cashews and cigarettes was the worst answer he gave yesterday. When asked why his team is allowing so many goals, he said, "You already know it's our injuries. It's that simple." It's not that simple. Canucks players are having trouble adapting to Foote's man-on-man system. And the people who know X's and O's recognize that. And we're recognizing that within a couple of weeks into the season. That's why they're one of the worst teams in goal prevention this season. So I can completely understand Foote not wanting to bury players in the media. And I think he's right to do that. Now, there's a middle ground there that I think more experienced coaches get to in terms of not burying the player, but also assigning responsibility. But if you're not going to bury players in the least, then that comes with the trade-off of having to take ownership and accountability and put it on your own shoulders. And in this case, Foote did not do that. And that's not what leaders do. Leaders don't 100% pin the tail on the scapegoat. And look, Adam Foote has forgotten more hockey than any of us will ever know. But I think Rick Tocchet and L.A. Vigneault and Willie Desjardins and all those Canucks head coaches who came before him will attest that at some point in this market, it's a smart hockey market. People know the game. They play the game. They love the game. You can't talk down to it. You have to throw them some bones from time to time. One of the great examples there, and we've cited it often since it has happened, was Alain Vigneault with Ryan Kessler. Kessler coming off the 40-goal season. And what everybody began to notice about Kessler in the season after he scored 40 goals is that he started falling in love with that snapshot from the top of the circles, right? He had scored so many goals the previous year, and give him full credit. Like, great shot, great release. He was found a way to use defensemen as screens. He was scoring goals from distance with that shot around the top of the circles, and it wasn't working as much the next year. Teams had made the adjustment. And LA must have been asked about Ryan Kessler passing the puck and not relying on that shot a half dozen times before he finally relented. Yes, it would behoove Ryan to use his wingers more. You remember that?
Yep.
Because there were 4 or 5 answers previous to that where Alain Vigneault was not going to utter a single solitary negative word about Kessler shooting the puck. And then when it became plainly obvious for everybody to see, Vigneault made the conscious decision, I've got to address this because the entire building sees it, the entire market sees it. I'm not going to try and pull wool anymore. Foote will get there, I think.
We need to take a little bit of a break here and talk about an article that just dropped, courtesy of our good buddy Patrick Johnson, in conversation with Jim Rutherford. Because there has been some clarity on the Canucks' desire to make trades. Again, courtesy of Patrick Johnson from theprovince.com, Post Media. The position of the team is that you would be willing to talk about the unrestricted free agents that would be talked about closer to the trade deadline. This isn't about looking to trade everybody. There are a number of veterans who have played very well, so this isn't about clumping everybody together. It's more about accelerating the obvious that could be made 2 months down the road. Whether it's a younger player or a draft pick, that's really the direction we need to go in. Use whatever word people like, whether it's somewhat of a rebuild, not a full-blown rebuild, but a rebuild, retool, whatever. It's the position we've been in since the JT Müller trade. He says, I believe Quinn and his agent are aware of the direction we want to go in, and they're aware of the direction they want to go. We're aware of the direction they want to go. Everybody wants to play on a winning team, but there's different reasons why people make different decisions.
Sorry, that accelerating the timeline from 2 months from now, does that mean they're willing to trade Quinn Hughes now? That's not what they were telling people yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think he means more of the UFA to Bs as the context that it was sort of presented in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as we see it, one begets the other, right? Like if you're trading UFAs to B for draft picks and future assets, then you're basically paving a path out of town for Hughes, are you not?
He says, again, we're aware of what they want, they're aware of what we want, and we both want to play on a winning team. So they're trying to, again, find the narrowest of paths where everybody comes away happy in all this. It's interesting that he says they want to get younger. I know what he means by that, but they're on the younger side of the ledger right now.
I mean, like it depends who you have in the lineup, but it's like between the 5th and 6th youngest team going.
Yeah. I mean, they just need to be better. like they don't actually, like, that is not the one attribute that I would say that sticks out to the Vancouver Canucks of what they need to be. They need to be better. If their young players that are on this team were better, then they would be fine. But they're the young players that and this is all due respect, Max, it's not that Carlson and Sasson and Baines and others aren't NHL worthy. It's that there's too many of that caliber of player on this team right now. And they're all young, and that brings that average age down, but they're just not good enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, so does EPD and Vilander. Right?
Yeah. And on a very good team, maybe only one of them squeezing into the lineup on a nightly basis.
Yep, that's probably fair.
You know? So, like, just saying we need to get younger, that's not actually true. They need to be better.
All right, so with all that being said, and God, was there a lot said there, the biggest news of the day is that Kevin Lankinen will not travel with the team due to personal reasons. Yuri Patera has been recalled from Abbotsford under emergency conditions. So Patera lives to see another NHL day. And Nikita Tolopilo is likely to start, if not tomorrow in Anaheim, then certainly on this road trip, having played 2 NHL games at the end of last season after the Canucks were eliminated from playoff contention. Certainly hope all turns out okay for Kevin Lankinen and his family here. But the near-term effect with Thatcher Demko still on the mend is that the Canucks are playing a couple of very inexperienced NHL goaltenders. Not that Big Nikita, the Belarusian, was sweating that when they spoke to him yesterday after practice. Here's Tolopilo.
Same game, the one puck, like 5 players against me, like 1 goal there. It's same game. Like it's as I said, it's nothing changed. Like for me in my game and my how I prepare. It's same game. Yeah.
Discussing the differences between the NHL and the AHL. And
he's not a kid, it should be pointed out. Tolopilo is 25 years of age, 25 and a half. Like he's not a kid, so he's got some maturity to him, even though he's only played a couple of years in the Swedish Elite League and now these couple of years down in Abbotsford. Big guy. What the Canucks need out of Tolopilo right now, and we see this around the league all the time. Team X calls up a player under these sorts of circumstances, and apropos nothing, that goalie stands on his head for a couple of games in a row. It's not who that goalie necessarily becomes later on in his career, but catches lightning in a bottle and comes up with a couple of big performances. And that's what the Canucks are going to need out of Nikita Tolopilo.
Now, Demko is expected to go on the trip. Foote mentioned that yesterday. It sounds like even Thatcher is ahead of schedule.
He pointed out the last game as a possibility of the trip.
Yeah, and of course, Demko is from California, so he may just have an interest in
being there,
being in his home state with his teammates. We know his dad lives in San Diego still. Foote did not know if Teddy Bluger was going to make the trip when asked yesterday. There were indications last week that he was, but he was in a red non-contact jersey at skate yesterday. Foote also said Hedl has skated a couple of times, but did note that it's still going to be a long road for the erstwhile second-line center of the Vancouver Canucks. So that's where they stand heading into this California road trip. Ducks Sharks on a 1 p.m. Friday, Black Friday matinee with the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. Los Angeles on the weekend, and then it ends in Denver against the league best Colorado Avalanche. All of that is coming up. Coming up on our program as we get into the menu, brought to you by Greta, Darren Dreger, NHL insider, who's going to join us weekly now. Darren's done his own digging on this story. You're going to want to hear what he has to say. And Cam Robinson as well, who has been mining his network to see what's going on here with the Vancouver Canucks. And boy, a lot of existential questions about the direction of the Canucks franchise from this point forward on what is a very big show, and it could be a very big day for this team as it charts a new course, ? We shall see. Our friends at Greta, they would love to have you and your event in their space. It is a fantastic one at that. Huge area. They got the upstairs at the back, which can incorporate a smaller group, or if you want the entirety of the space and all those video games that encircle the bar, air hockey, Pop-A-Shot, all the fun, not to mention eat some of the fantastic food there at Greta. Check them out for more info to book your event, gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. Let's get to our Bet365 bets of the day. I lost yesterday, Blake. I was hoping to go beyond regulation in that MLS playoff game. Alas, was not meant to be, so why don't you fire first?
It looked like it was going to be
it was one kick away. Oh, should also mention, we do have resolution on where the Whitecaps are going to play next week. We will get into Vancouver at San Diego, the Western Conference Final for MLS. They had a pitch issue last night, not to mention all the football with the Lions marking dates and opponents for those touchdown Kelowna games.
And
next June,
Minnesota
July.
was terrible last night. Like if Minnesota had somehow got that to PKs, which looked like was their game plan, like the Whitecaps would have absolutely trounced them. As it stands, they've got a tough test.
I'm sure it was the pitch, though.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm going to look at the Dallas Stars tonight. Into Edmonton to take on the Oilers. Dallas has found themselves 7 wins, just 2 losses in their last 10, one going past 60 minutes. They're still dogs, of course, being in Edmonton, so plus 115, rare value for the Stars.
Well, as we've pointed out several times this year, we've been a little surprised and pleasantly surprised by the amount of scoring that the Vancouver Canucks have done this year. We thought they'd be very short on goals just looking at the roster on paper. And look, they're still bottom third or on the cusp of the bottom third in terms of goals per game. They're averaging 3 per game. It's 21st in the NHL. Their opponent tomorrow, the Anaheim Ducks, averaging 3.59. They're the second highest scoring team in the NHL, and we now know the goaltender will either be Tolopilo or Patera.
Oh, boy.
For the Canucks. It's a high over at 6.5 at minus 110, but I'm going over on tomorrow Ducks and Canucks from the pond in Anaheim. The segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Darren Dreger coming up next. Here's some price from the historic Wall Center.
And this segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers, in particular the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. Folks, if you have wanted to get a more fuel-efficient vehicle, thought about electric, but are worried about that range stuff, the Prius plug-in hybrid has you covered. 72 kilometers of fully electric range. On those days you're just running errands around town, going to work, you're good. You need a little bit more range for the big trips, don't want to be looking for plug-ins along the highway, you've got your full gasser ready to roll. The Toyota Prius, so fun to drive. The new lines will blow you away. So sporty and fun. Go check it out right now. You can lease one from $99 weekly at 3.49% for the SE, 64 months with $3,600 down, and that includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today.
We talked with him on the eve of the season, and now that we're into insider season, weekly with Darren Dreger will typically be Mondays, but he's made some time for us here on a Tuesday. TSN Hockey Insider, one half of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Nice to have you back. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Busy. You know, it's kind of that time of year, too. And then, you know, even though historically we look at U.S. Thanksgiving, which is later this week, and just around the 20-game mark, as the annual mark for the trading season open. I think the activity is elevated, but I don't get the sense that there's anything, you know, front burner. And maybe that pushes to the 25, 30 game mark, because when you look around the National Hockey League, with the exception of 2-3 teams, maybe everybody's still kind of in it, right? And the divisions are so tight. So that helps explain why there are so few sellers.
Points proximity, you're right. But the headlines are delicious for a guy like you these days. The Leafs are in last place in the Eastern Conference. The Canucks are nearly last place in the Western Conference. And the Oilers are below the playoff bar. That tells me that we're going to see a lot of Darren Dreger in the next few weeks.
Yeah, probably. Well, no, undoubtedly, yes. But I mean, these clubs are more or less in the same boat, right? And I'd throw the Montreal Canadiens into the mix as well. You know, they had Alex Texier. Okay, with all due respect, Maybe he helps because he's better than the seat filler, but he's not a game changer, or I don't expect him to be. So you know that Quinn Hughes is one of those teams that is on the hunt. Brad Treliving and the Toronto Maple Leafs are in one. You know, their health situation, no different than the Vancouver Canucks, is not very good. Marginally getting better with news that, you know, they're seeing improvement in Matthews and in Nyes and in some other pieces. But their schedule is hard. It's difficult. And when you look at where the Toronto Maple Leafs are positioned, even though I think that with Marner now in Vegas, everybody believed and knew there was going to be some form of adjustment required. Nobody expected that a team that I think responded to playing the way you need to play under Craig Berube a year ago isn't responding this year. They're simply not getting it. They're not competing at the level that he needs them to compete. So when you've got Toronto in the mud, the Vancouver Canucks dealing with they're dealing with, the start of the Edmonton Oilers, I mentioned Montreal. You're right. That keeps guys like me in business.
All right. You mentioned the Canucks. What are they dealing with, Darren?
Yeah, a lot, to be fair. But I think that it's important to embrace perspective and context here. What we know is that Patrick Allvin submitted a memo into what I believe is a general manager's group chat, essentially, right, to say, hey, we are open to moving our pending unrestricted free agent veterans. He did not say we are open to moving all veterans. He did not say that we are considering trading Quinn Hughes. Very specific to that group of players. So what that means is if somebody calls on Evander Kane and says we're offering a younger player or a piece that the Canucks can work with that is futures, sure, Allvin and company would consider that. And, you know, isn't this really the MO of Jimmy Rutherford? It feels like we talk about this on an annual basis, right? So you're past the 20-game mark. The trade deadline is still eons away, but you've got a Canucks team that is struggling and dealing with the injury adversity, but still wanting to maintain competitiveness and feeling that they're not that far away because, you know, my eye tells me they're playing hard. You know, are there games that they could have won, maybe should have won? Well, yes, but then you have to look at the inexperience that they have to play on their defense. The fact that, you know, they've got David Camp playing number 2 center. I'm a believer in David Camp, but they pulled him off the scrap heap in Toronto. And he couldn't get in the lineup with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but there he is in Vancouver as a 2C. So Vancouver's just trying to get a head start on the business, but they're not selling off primary assets to do it.
There was a meeting yesterday, Jim Rutherford, Patrick Allvin, and Adam Foote's office, Quinn Hughes in there as well. How much are you aware of whether Quinn Hughes was brought into the process here, Darren, as they hope to keep him beyond this season?
Well, undoubtedly, they want to keep him beyond this season. You know, that's pretty obvious, right? And that's the tricky part in all of this. What I know of Quinn Hughes, and that applies to the very second of this conversation, he wants to win with the Vancouver Canucks. Captain of the team, he's looking at all of the holes that we've already talked about, you know, the holes that they have up the middle, the inexperience on their blue line, the fact that Thatcher Demko is hurt. You know, he's keenly aware of the issues that this club faces. So, you know, he's probably looking at management, maybe to the coach and saying, okay, well, we're plugging holes with these guys who, you know, don't have a resume of playing long-term in the National Hockey League. What else? What else are we trying to do here? And then again, I back up and we talk about the memo that was sent out to the 31 other clubs. So management is trying to encourage some dialogue with other clubs to get that help that Quinn Hughes and the coach and others are hoping that they get. But this is an important year, right? If Vancouver can't turn a hardworking playing ethic into wins, and if you get closer to the trade deadline and they're a non-playoff team and the season looks like it's going sideways, you know, you're probably looking at things a little bit different because if you're Quinn Hughes and you know you're a non-playoff team, well, maybe going into the offseason with a year left on your contract, all bets are off. And you're like, no, I don't see it. I don't think that this is something that is going to work. And I think that it's in your best interest to consider trading me at this point. But they're not there yet. And the captain certainly hasn't given up on this season.
Well, let me ask you this. They were hesitant to bring Hughes into the conversation about who the new head coach should be because they didn't necessarily want to burden him with that, although they did pick someone who we understand had Hughes' blessing in Adam Foote. It would be a hell of a gaffe to trade out a veteran that Quinn Hughes looks at as part of the solution here in Vancouver. So do you know whether Quinn will be consulted at all in terms of who needs to go from this Canucks team?
I don't know that. I really don't. I think that there's a high level of respect for what Quinn Hughes sees in every sense of the organization. So I would look at Quinn Hughes no differently than I look at Connor McDavid, maybe Austin Matthews. I mean, any decorated player on any team, especially in the Canadian market, where there's strong opinion coming from every corner. I don't know why you wouldn't have at least a general conversation on what he sees as primary needs. I mean, anybody can look at that roster and see they need a center.
Yeah.
Anybody. And I mean, it goes without saying that when Patrick Allvin picks up the phone and he's talking to these general managers, he's identified one of their centers in their organization as a player of interest to the Vancouver Canucks. But again, I think we need to be mindful and keep it in context. The veteran players that Vancouver is willing to part with right now are unrestricted free agents at the end of this year. Okay, well, I don't know that you would have to consult your captain or any player, aside from the obvious wondering, if Quinn Hughes is, a real good buddy with one of the unrestricted free agents, he's the captain, all right, maybe you have that conversation. But beyond that, I'm not sure it's needed.
So right now, that limits what we're talking about to Evander Kane, Kiefer Sherwood, and potentially Teddy Blueger, although he's not fully healthy now, so I don't know that he would be top of the list. Can those conversations dovetail to others? We've heard some discussion about Connor Garland being available, and even the wisdom of, is somebody trading for Connor Garland at expense of a guy that could play center? I don't know that I even see that as a route to success.
No, I'm with you. And maybe that's why I dropped Evander Kane's name earlier with a purpose. Not that he hasn't been a good fit for the Vancouver Canucks, but, you look at the other pieces, they still have to have a negotiation with Judd Moldaver, who represents Kiefer Sherwood. Mm-hmm. What does an extension look like? What sort of dollars are we talking about here? To this point in the season, he's been an offensive producer. Is that sustainable? I don't think either side is in any rush, but if you're the Vancouver Canucks and things haven't improved and you don't like the numbers that you're hearing from Judd in the preliminary discussions, why wouldn't you throw out Kiefer Sherwood into that? And I think you have, essentially, right? Because again, we're being specific here to the pending UFAs, and there's not a boatload of them. There's a few that would have interest and have some value, without question. And for me, it's probably Kane and Sherwood at this point.
So the idea is trade one of the wingers for a center. It may be a lesser center than the winger is a winger, but that's the boat you're in when you're desperate down the middle and at a more premium position. Is that effectively?
Yeah, and if you want to expand the trade a little bit, the perfect scenario would be for a younger player. And you look at Sherwood, well, that's not going to be entirely easy to do. But maybe that's where you get a little bit more creative in terms of the Canucks assets that are non-roster assets that you're willing to sweeten to make a deal like that, where you're getting the center, but all of a sudden he's a younger center than you were expecting to get as part of that package.
Yeah. But let's attack this from the other side. Who's willing to peel off a center right now that is in acquisition of winger mode? My mind explodes just even trying to think of what team would be in that position. Who's so overflowing with centers?
I do this for a living every single day, and twice a week on TSN. I roll my eyes a little bit at the words that are coming out of my mouth when I'm talking about, this general manager has made it clear that he's identified a centerman. They're scouring. We say it 52 times a year.
Yeah.
And to your point, I'm not making fun of myself. we're reporting facts, but it's just the wheel continues to spin because they haven't been able to find that player. And then I'm reminded of the many conversations I've had with Jimmy and all the experienced general managers over the years of, if you don't get your business done in the off season, especially when you're looking for top 4D and centermen, and I guess throw goalies, of course, obviously into that mix, good luck. And then if you face the issue of injury like the Canucks have faced to this point of the year, it's just magnified. And the other part to this, and I'm not amused by the general manager's chat chain. Why wouldn't they have a group chat?
Yeah, for sure.
It's rather than making 31 calls, you just send out a note, say, hey, we're open for business on our pending unrestricted free agents. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? But as if that information is going to stay confidential for more than an hour or two. That's not real either. So we continue to spin our tires. But again, when you've got injury and you've got a need, we have to keep talking about it because the search from these guys and their office is continual day by day.
And to be fair, with these fantastical wants of some general managers, I would say more than once per season, guys, we see a trade go down where you imagine a GM is thinking, if I knew that guy was available, I would have done that trade. And so we get surprised by trades.
Okay. Yeah. You're not wrong. But so here, just let me throw something out very quickly for you guys. This is why, and that Johnny Beecher getting claimed by the Calgary Flames off waivers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was borderline shocked that he was on waivers. And you shouldn't be, I guess, when you look at the fact that he wasn't in the lineup with the Boston Bruins. But it supports the discussion we're having here. Johnny Beecher is a large centerman, young, who can flat out skate. And anybody who spent 5 minutes watching the Boston Bruins could see that this kid was starving for a restart, a fresh start somewhere else. For Boston not to be able to get something for Johnny Beecher, that blows my mind. And again, that's supported by the number of teams that reached out to me that said they had no idea that he was going on waivers. Like, again, when you're talking about a world that needs centermen, he may not have been an answer to the troubles of Vancouver in the 2-3 spot, but how do you know? Decent young center that'll get nothing but opportunity in Calgary.
All right. Well, a few things here. First of all, I think Patrick Alvey knows full well that his memo is going to get public in short order. In fact, I think that's part of the point as well, to tamp down
I'd be pissed.
The temperature.
If I were a manager, I'd be freaking sour.
If it got public, you mean?
Yeah, I would be. I mean, I get it, but
they have to know, as you say, Dregs, like they have to know that's going to get public.
I know, but what goes around comes around, right? So if the general manager putting that memo out there shares it with one of us, one of the reporters, that's his prerogative. That's his business, no problem. But when one of the other guys does it, it gets a little greasy.
Yeah. You say you're not amused. Are you amused by Russians in their basement smoking cigarettes, eating cashews, and coming up with high danger chances? Dregs.
Well, I was when I saw the soundbite, only because I know Adam Foote, and he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy, and I just get the popcorn out when the analytics debate starts, especially when it's fueled on social media, and this would have fueled that. But I also appreciate his sense of humor. He was trying to be funny, trying to lighten the mood, and the analytics world didn't like it. But I guarantee you, Adam Foote would acknowledge, no different than any head coach in the National Hockey League, that every year it grows, right? The world of analytics and how the coaching staff and management use analytics and support their own analytics department is abundantly obvious. So I think he was trying to be funny. I was amused by it because I've engaged in this debate historically, but I guess it struck a chord. So he'll get through it. He's been through worse.
One more Canucks item here, but the team announces this morning that Kevin Lankinen is not going on this road trip because of a personal matter. They have recalled Yuri Patera, so they are running Nikita Tolopilo and Yuri Patera through California and Colorado, Darren.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that things could move quickly here from the Canucks in terms of their unwillingness to rebuild if they're staring down a near-term future with Patera and Tolopilo between the pipes?
I mean, I don't think so. I'm not firm on that, and I can understand, why people would have issue with that too. But, again, it doesn't sound like Thatcher Demko is that far away, right? And if he can stay healthy, knock on wood, then he's going to give you a chance to win. So, I mean, it's just a pile-on effect now. It's reached the point of being just bonkers in Vancouver and elsewhere. So maybe it heats up the chair of Patrick Galvin in the sense of, okay, like there's only so many bullets we can take here. Like you need to find that piece. Like you've got to find a depth defenseman that can help us through the grind. You've got to find a centerman. So maybe in that respect, all of this is coming together, but I don't think beyond that. In fact, I know based on the messaging that I got this morning, they're kind of in a wait and see mode. If we can just wrap up this whole trade thought scenario for a moment, they're putting those pending UFAs out there, but if they don't get what they need back, they're happy to wait. So that doesn't speak of an organization or a management group that is willing to turn tail and jump into one of the R words because there's another injury in the mix. It just elevates their need for support.
Is there a semantics thing that's missing here? Like, I think the Canucks management don't want to do a full tear down rebuild in the grand scheme of things. Three years of losing, et cetera, et cetera. But
right.
when you realize that injuries have basically kiboshed your season, isn't there an in-between world where you just say, no, we're going to have a rebuild year. I'm selling all my assets. I'm doing all the responsible things for this year because we can't win this year, but I'm going to set myself up for success next. Isn't there middle ground there? And it's not the half-ass rebuild that we've seen from other administrations in this team. Yeah. But it's just calling a spade for the year at least.
Okay, but define what that year means because,
the UFA
when's
thing,
the last?
Yeah.
When's the last time we saw a trade at the trade deadline that significantly mattered? And sure, there have been recent success stories of teams that have added pieces at the deadline, a rental guy that seems to fit in all of that. But I'm talking about the return, a first-round draft pick for whatever player that Patrick Galvin is moving as part of a retool between now and the trade deadline. Isn't going to matter to Patrick Galvin because chances are he's not going to be around, right, when that player becomes an NHL player. Yep. Probably not. So when I push back on what's the year, if that year drifts into the offseason and the Quinn Hughes situation goes sideways where you're in a position where you may not be afforded the next year because Quinn is making it abundantly clear he's not staying, and you need to transition and maximize what that return looks like. Well, now we're talking about something around the draft, right? Or around free agency. But that's not going to help the Canucks after the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's the problem.
All right, Darren, great stuff. Looking forward to going weekly here, especially with things flying around already. Appreciate the time here today. Catch up Monday.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
And you know what is a historic pizza brand? It's Pizza Pizza, and it's here in British Columbia now and ready to offer you the best bang for the buck that you could possibly imagine. You know when a large pizza just isn't large enough? It's time for a double XL pizza from Pizza Pizza. A 3-topping double XL right now is just $19.99. That's an 18-inch pizza, 8 huge slices. That is perfect for any game that you're watching. Don't forget the creamy garlic dip as well. Only at Pizza Pizza, and they're actually Canadian.
We're joined now by Cam Robinson. He is the director of everything there at Elite Prospects. He joins us on Tuesdays usually, and he was on our side of the strait last week having some fun with Ryan Lynn, top prospect with the Vancouver Giants. We're going to talk some draft rankings and prospects like Lynn in a bit here, Cam. But first, oh boy, we got lots swirling around the NHL club. First of all, how are you, my friend? Good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I've never had pizza, but a double XL. I'm interested.
Oh boy!
Right?
Yeah,
Right. Next time you're here, Cam, we will order in for you. You got to experience this pizza. Okay, tell me what you know on the Vancouver Canucks in light of all the news yesterday about memos going to GMs and veteran UFAs available.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise. The best part is that how many days removed are we from Jim Rutherford saying that they wouldn't even consider a rebuild with or without Quinn, and then now, here we are. It's leaking out that they're open for business on their veterans. It's what they should have been looking at already, and I'm sure they internally were discussing it. But I know it gets a lot of people excited, like, oh yeah, big changes coming. But when you look at really the assets, and I'm sure you guys have been talking about it already today, is that they have several UFAs, Evander Kane, Kiefer Sherwood's the big one. Teddy Bluger, Kampf, and Derek Forbert. And then, a couple guys with 1-year deals, Quinn being the big one, Tyler Myers, no movement clause, Hedl, injury, and then Drew O'Connor. And then you've just got a whole host of guys that are, 4 to 6 years left on their deals with no movement clauses. Garland, Demko, Hronik, Marcus Pettersson, Besser, Petey, they all have no moves, right? So it's not going to be easy to make substantial deals that's really going to change the complexion of this team. Without really doing some deep cuts. And as we know, is that teams don't toss life preservers, right? They throw anchors. And especially at this time of year, there's really no race for a team to get in there and be like, we need to go and sell the farm for Connor Garland right now. As they get closer to the deadline and they see, the same thing. It's like, does a team want to pay a first-round pick to get Kiefer Sherwood in December? Or are they going to wait and see, is he still cooking at that rate? Is his value going to still be that high come February, March? So I don't think that we're going to see too many big changes coming in the near future here, but at least they're moving down that track. Now, my big question, though, is, are you going to let this management team do the big cuts? I had someone from another team, and this is obviously, so it's coming from another organization, but said that they had heard some rumblings that potentially wholesale changes, like top to bottom management, scouting, big changes could be coming to the Canucks. And so if that's the case, it's like, yeah, you probably let these guys move out some, upcoming UFAs, but are you really going to let them do a Quinn Hughes trade? Are you really going to let them make these big things that are going to really alter the course of the future for this organization?
It's hard to believe that this team is in that position after 2 years removed from that Edmonton Oilers series, but here they are. The second line center question is a huge one. Could they possibly liquidate a couple of these players, collect assets, and then use those to buy? Is it a case of get rid of 3 guys in order to find enough currency to buy 1 guy? Is that part of the plan here?
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. I mean, depends on what you're buying. Are you getting yourself a 23-year-old second line center? Then absolutely. Sure, go ahead and do that. Someone you can build around long term. Can you pry Mason McTavish out of Anaheim or something like that? Then yeah, absolutely. But are you going to sell off 28, 30-year-olds to go get yourself a 28, 30-year-old second line center for what? For what, right? If you're moving out these assets and you're looking long term, you're going to have to suffer for what you brought into the season, knowing that Filip Chytil was 1 hit away from you having 0 center depth. You have Pettersson, and then I'm sorry to say, but you have a host of AHLers just rotating through the rest of your lineup, guys that should be at the bottom of your lineup if they are in the league or in the American League. And then you look at the American League team. Yes, they're coming off of a championship, but they don't have any assets down there other than Lekkerimäki right now, and he's played 4 games. Their leading scorer, I think, has 10 or 11 points in 18 games. He's a 26-year-old who's playing in Kalamazoo last year. It's not like they have a bunch of assets coming up as well that are near ready. They've got Braden Coots. They have some, a couple of interesting young guys, but they need so much more. So it's, unfortunately, unless there's a sharp turn here at some point, the pain's probably going to be pretty long term.
Let me ask you this. We had talked about Kiefer Sherwood and his trade value on an awesome season. Well, second straight awesome season. And we had talked about it in the vein of a future and talking about whether they could get a first-round pick for him. As we know, they don't quite value first-round picks like other teams do. They don't want to actually rebuild. Could Kiefer Sherwood get you an imperfect 2C? Like maybe a guy who's old and his level is dropping and the team that owns him right now wants to get out of him before the level drops further. Or maybe the contract is onerous, or maybe he's just not good enough to be a 2 seed, but he's masquerading as such. Is there any world where you could see Sherwood landing that center iceman for them, or any of these wingers helping land a right now center iceman for them?
I think Connor Garland, potentially. Kiefer Sherwood, his age, the lack of long-term production. I know that he had a great year last year and he's been excellent again this year. But I still wonder, and talking to some teams, is that they wonder too. They love the player that he is, the amount of hits that he can accumulate, but it's you don't want to be taking something off your team that helps you now to add a piece like that. He's someone that you're adding to a team, a contender already, that's going to bolster and be a playoff guy for you. When you're saying that, it's like the first name that jumped into my mind is like, hey, who's that guy in New York right now who's making too much money, is a little over 30, and is struggling? Maybe a JT Müller could fit the bill for the Canucks as a second line center. But honestly, I just don't see. There's no real options on the trade market right now for a center.
But you said Garland there. You started your answer with Garland instead of Sherwood. Okay, so if it's not Sherwood, does Garland land you that guy?
Maybe, and again, speaking with teams around the league, is that everybody really likes Connor Garland, and it's obvious why. He is a dog with a bone, right? And so is Kiefer Sherwood, but Garland has more skill. He has proven to be a guy who can put up 40, 50 points on a consistent basis. There's a reason he was invited to Team USA's, Olympic camp there too, is that he is well respected around the league for what he can bring on both sides of the puck. So if you are going to move a guy like him, 4 years left on his deal with a no move to get yourself a center, you might be able to pull that off. The issue right now is that there's a lot of teams that are in the mix for the playoffs that aren't sure if they're still going to be there. And then there's a bunch of teams that are outside the mix for the playoffs that believe they should be in there. So it's kind of this jumble on the trade market where nobody's really willing to plant their flag and be like, we're the team. And then those clear contenders are going to wait until the deadline to maximize what they can do with their cap space too. So it's just kind of the dog days right now. It's really going to be challenging for the Canucks to, like I said, to do much major surgery here.
Here's my bright idea. I'll bounce it off of you here, Cam.
All right.
I love when he workshops things here with
So
our
do I.
guest, Cam. Let me just preface
This is high risk,
Oh, my God.
probability of very little reward. It is going down a road
Good
they've
start.
just gone down and been burned by. But hey, if you're in a Vegas mood, roll the dice.
Who's in a Vegas mood?
This is
Where's Vegas
They're
coming
gambling. They're gambling. Connor Garland, part of a package to Buffalo for Josh Norris.
Quinn Hughes' his best friend.
Quinn Hughes.
That was actually a lot better than I hoped. I was anticipating falling off this chair.
Quinn Hughes' best friend. That ticks that box in the attempt to keep him happy. It is a center that is imperfect in that he is often injured. He is just another Filipino. But what are the chances both of them are injured at the same time, Cam?
Very high. Very high.
Really, huh?
Extremely high. But I don't hate
you might
it.
think.
Right?
I don't hate it either.
I
I was
like-
expecting to hate it.
I liked the idea of them going after him last year before he got flipped for Dylan Cousins. And granted, they didn't have anything to offer that was Dylan Cousins level. But we talk about how it's kind of this dark, swirly zone around the Canucks. It's like, imagine being a Buffalo Sabre. Like, there's no light at the end of that tunnel either, right? It seems like guys are just withering on the vine. So I'm sure he wouldn't be mad to get out of there. And they have to do some changes. But is Connor Garland going to sign off and go to Buffalo? Is that going to be checked on the no move?
He doesn't have no move. He doesn't until the extension kicks in next year. I see people a little confused about this.
My mistake.
I mean, right now, unless the public sites are wrong, Yeah, right now, unless the public websites like Cap Wages
They've got nothing for him. Yeah.
have an omission there, my understanding is Garland has zero trade protection now, gets a new
that's right.
no move clause when the extension kicks
On
in
that
next
new deal.
July.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, so you can sign him to that extension and then deal him to the Sabres before his no move kicks in, so that every other free agent is going to be like, that's a city I want to sign in.
That's right.
It's a dick
That's
move.
right.
It's a dick move.
It's a dick move. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they asked a player with a no move or a no trade to waive it, right? Kuzmenko, Mikheyev, there have been, so.
But he gets closer to the playoffs in a weird way if he goes to Buffalo.
He gets closer to his home in Massachusetts.
Does that too?
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But bringing in a guy like Josh Norris, like generally, I think that is maybe the best you could hope for at this point, is a guy who's 25, 26 years old. He has a history of being productive, but he has warts, because you're not going to get a 25, 26-year-old without warts.
Yeah.
Well, he had a couple of shoulder matters, and then more recently it's been a different injury. So, but he is Quinn's ride or die. So, did they have any chance of being competitive with Tolopilo and Patera manning the goal?
I don't think you feel very good about it. That's for sure. Like it's going to be tough sledding out there with those two in net, especially if it's going to be for more than a game or two, right? If it's going to be long term, like you look at it, we're already just about at the end of November. They're 30th. If you dig this hole too much deeper, like it is literally, there's no way out. And then you have to lean into it. And so this is pretty poor timing for them to be down both their top two goaltenders and to not have a guy like Artur Silovs sitting there ready that you can play and feel confident with. Yeah. And for a team that gives up more goals than anybody in the league, it's not like they play a tight defensive structure that they can just, bubble wrap their goalies and be like, clear the house, hold down the fort, no high danger chances. They bleed high danger chances. So they need their goaltenders to steal them some wins, and I just don't expect it from those two guys.
What do you think is more probable? Like, there are go-to tropes for National Hockey League teams that are in this situation. There's desperation trades. We've kind of gone over that. And then there's coaching and management changes. And I'm talking mid-season. End of season's too easy to make those changes. If they are feeling desperate mid-year, could you see coaching or management changes from this team?
Absolutely. It is always easier to fire someone than trade someone, right?
Yeah.
It is, you want to shake something up. You can give a guy his walking papers, and you don't need anybody else's help to do that. It takes two to tango on the trade market, and it is very, very difficult to pull off mid-season trades away from the deadline. So absolutely. I mean, this management group they've had a good run, they've had a long run. No one will be accused of cutting bait too early. Jim Rutherford, I believe this is the last year on his deal, and his kids, I think, graduating high school this year too, which was what he was looking for, that duration. Adam Foote, he's a first-time head coach, and it's not going great. He was a first-time junior coach. It didn't go great. He seems to me, and he always did kind of seem like that, like Quinn said, that he was my favorite coach I ever played with. He seems like that really good buddy assistant coach, that maybe he just isn't made to be the head guy. And that's okay. Not everybody is. Not to say that giving him 25 games is enough to really make that decision right at this point, but it hasn't gone well for a guy who ran the defense to now have the team that is worst in the league at playing defense.
Well, and especially when he's asked, why are you giving up so many goals yesterday? And he says, you already know, injuries, it's that simple. And it's like, well, coach, maybe your system has something to do with it as well, right? So that refusal to take even the slightest bit of public accountability, he said earlier in the session he wasn't going to bury players publicly, and that's well and good, but that means you take the bullets, coach.
I was about to say, exactly.
Yeah, and so that, to me, as much as cigarettes and cashews sort of showed that he's over his head a little bit here. Incidentally, where does Elite Prospects derive its analytics, and is it a Russian basement with somebody smoking cigarettes and eating cashews?
Novosibirsk.
Can you confirm?
I can confirm that our Russian scout is based in the U.S. and I should check in on his cashew supply. I'm not sure.
Is he
about
above
that,
ground
I wondered,
or below?
Right? Was that a shout out at like Dim? Was that a Filipovich? He's somewhere there was a Dmitry Filipovich, and he's like, that sounds like a Russian name. This guy might be manually tracking high danger. I should text Dim and be like, was that
I didn't put that together.
I think maybe, hey? I wonder.
Well, and as others said, like Russians can't afford cashews. You're talking about the most expensive nut on the spectrum here.
It's royal
not like that's
nut, right? That's
country is flush with money right now. Lay Russians are buying cashews. I mean, they'd be lucky to afford peanuts at this stage of things. Okay, you and your buddy said elite prospects have dropped a new NHL draft rankings, Cam, and looky here, who would have a top 5 pick if the NHL draft happened today? It would be the Vancouver Canucks, 3rd overall behind Nashville and Calgary.
And I was all curious to see if you had Keaton Verhoff as number 1, but no, you do not. In fact,
whoa,
he's barely hanging on to the top 5.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, there was obviously a lot of internal discussions about what to do at the top. I was one of the loudest voices, not the only one, to maintain that McKenna should stay at number 1. I spoke to a bunch of teams and tested the water with them, and I had one scout basically say, like, does 6 weeks of like arguably mediocre play erase years of elite level production and play? And it's like, no, it shouldn't. But the one that's getting all the texts today is we have Chase Reed at number 3.
Yeah.
Ivar Stenberg at number 2, but Chase Reed at number 3. So the American, he's a really interesting story. Got cut from the USHL, played in the Null, jumped over to the OHL last year, put up nearly a point a game. He's a 6'2" defenseman, over a point a game. I think he's got 28 and 25 right now. Mobile, super mobile, right side. Kid has all the skills, the size, and like elite skating that you see from like true number 1 defensemen. Like there was talk about, do we put him at 2? Do we put him at 1? Like he's very, very talented. And that would be right in the Canucks wheelhouse there if they kind of maintain this position throughout the season.
2 right shot defensemen at the top right now, and Verhoff and him, like.
Yeah,
okay, but what about
Stenberg?
Verhoff's
like the floor is so high. Oh, love Stenberg. Really love Stenberg.
What about Stenberg, the Swedish winger who, like, and I've seen the stats. For his age, he is better than Henrik, Daniel Sedin, and some other Swedish luminaries. What is it, points in the SHL for about under 20 player, Cam? And who is he better than right now?
Yeah, so for draft eligibles all time in the SHL, the top mark is Daniel. I think it's 0.86 points per game. So he put up like 40 and 50, something like that, a little bit more. He's at just below a point a game. So 20 and 21 right now. So that's already a top 10 draft eligible season in the SHL. We're not even at the halfway mark. He is producing at a rate we have never seen from a kid his age. Now, granted, he is 2 weeks shy of being eligible last year. So he's about as old as you can get for this draft class. Nearly a full year older than a kid like Keaton Verhoff. But, he's got a motor on him. Good wheels, good handles, loves to play inside the dots. That's when he's most effective, is when he's playing on the inside and getting off the wall and playing in between those dotted lines. He's put up monster points everywhere he's played. He broke the J20 point per game record last year, all time. He tore up the U18s. He's just a player. It's going to be really fun to see at the World Juniors this year, because he's not going to have the same type of support that McKenna will with that offense and for Team Canada. So it'll be the Ivar Stenberg show for Sweden, and teams will really be able to key in on him. But those two are going to go head to head. And I mean, he could put another chink in the armor for McKenna if he can go out there and put up, 10 or 11 points, and McKenna doesn't. We could be looking at the top winger in the class could be from Sweden.
Okay, so run me down the top 5 for those who haven't seen it yet. Who do you have in order, names, position?
Yeah, so McKenna on the wing there, Stenberg right wing playing for Frölunda, Chase Reed the right D playing for the Sioux, the Greyhounds there. He's at the top prospects this week. We got Keaton Verhoff, number 4, big 6'4" right shot defenseman, massive release on him, scores goals, hits hard. The feet though, right? Just not elite. That's where Chase Reed has the up on him, is that his skating is just so supreme. And then Ethan Belchez at number 5, okay, left winger playing for Windsor, 6'5", 230 pounds, great hands around the net. He is like the most unique player in this draft class. He is that guy that you could be like, oh boy, he has a huge physical advantage at the OHL level. he's going to have that same physical advantage in the NHL when he's in his early 20s. It'll take a minute to strengthen up, and get used to playing against, defensemen that are 6'3", 220, that are men, but he's going to be just a horse, and he's got great skill too. So he's another one, like he could end up going 1 or 2 as well. Like, you don't be surprised. It's kind of a 5-horse race at the top.
Yeah. I mean, 6'5", 230 at 18 years old, you can't teach that.
Are you telling me that the Canucks can't even get a freaking center at the draft?
No.
Is that what I'm seeing?
Now I will.
Yes,
that's what you're seeing. Now I will say
top 7. You got Tynan Lawrence at 7. So the Canucks need to fall to find their center. Like it's No, because Tynan Lawrence will probably go before that. The issue with Tynan is he's only played 2 games. He's been injured all season, but he is by far the best center available, and we know what NHL teams do, right? Come draft day, they prioritize center. So, like, if Tynan Lawrence goes 2, I'm not going to blink. Like, he's definitely going to ingratiate himself into that mix, in that big 6, if you will, once he gets a few more games under his belt. And is he a surefire center? Surefire center? Or is he
he's a center. And, no, he's a center for sure. And last year as a 16-year-old, like, he led Muskegon. He was the MVP of the playoffs. They won the championship. Like, he's a player for sure. He's a very, very talented player. And another one, he just needs some more games, and then he'll jump up the board a little bit here too.
And lastly, Ryan Lynn, where do you have him ranked, and how was your day with him out at the LEC?
Yeah, we got Lynner at 10. He slipped a little bit on our board. It's not so much that he hasn't been playing well, but some of these other guys have been playing very, very well. I had a great time with him. He is a terrific kid. You can tell he's well brought up. He's got good family there. We spent a bunch of time on the ice, had some fun, hung out afterwards. Like, it was certainly worth the trip. And I think this kid's going to be a stud too. He's just a hair under 6 foot tall, but he has just supreme IQ. Excellent defensively. He leads all draft eligible CHL blue liners in points. I think him and Reed are tied with 28 points. So he's really pushing the boundaries of his offensive game. He's one of these kids that if he falls out of the top 10, like, it seems like another Z Bouillon situation to me, where teams are going to regret it pretty darn quickly, and that he's going to earn his minutes in the NHL quickly.
Awesome stuff. Great hit. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun. Appreciate the time, Cam. We'll catch up next week, buddy.
Thanks, boys. Talk soon.
Secure some price from the historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Leach. Hear louder when you're rested. Book your staycation here at the Wall, just minutes from the stadium and arena. Unlock that Secure some price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Some blackout date supply based on availability. So the Vancouver Whitecaps FC, alas, won't host MLS Western Final after San Diego FC defeats Minnesota 1-0, their only shot on goal, on a pitch that made BC Place's turf look world class.
Hugo Lloris was not available for comment, but I would love a penny for his thoughts.
Well, San Diego FC shares Snapdragon Stadium with San Diego State football. The Aztecs had their final home game of the season on Saturday. SoCal was also hit with an unusual amount of rain this week. I had a friend in L.A. who's lived in Vancouver text me on the weekend, say, it looks like Vancouver right now down here. And they needed to use sand to try and fix the pitch. Alas, even the home team was critical of it, with San Diego midfielder Yeppe Tverskov calling it, quote, broken. And apparently the troubles with this pitch have been ongoing throughout San Diego's expansion year. The news of MLS moving to a summer-spring schedule was well received from a pitch maintenance standpoint down there. Yes, Hugo Lloris would have lost his shit playing on this. And this is a grass surface, perhaps a good lesson that grass can be more susceptible to the elements and cause even more trouble than turf for outdoor sports.
Well,
I don't know why that needs to be repeated to the soccer crowd, but therein lies the fact.
There are very few markets in North America that can afford, have the land availability to have a truly soccer-only facility. We saw San Jose a year or two ago. The Caps went down there, and it was fresh off of a Coldplay concert, I think. And there was where the stage was in the middle of the pitch was like all burnt. Like, it was just a disaster. Like, there are very few stadiums that can afford to not have anything else.
It can't be a multi-sport multi-sport, multi-use stadium. And the fact of the matter is that any North American political constituency worth its salt is not going to greenlight public funds to a stadium for one sole purpose and one sole team.
I mean, unless you're in a place that has exorbitant amounts of land and you put that, like, you know, Colorado Stadium is 40 minutes out of the downtown area. Well, then I guess it works. Rio Tinto and what was Rio Tinto in Salt Lake, same idea. Like those, maybe. But everybody else is dealing with a different set of rules.
It's the big difference between North America and Europe. We play more outdoor sports on this continent in venues of the same size as what you would need for your top-level soccer. So it's a little bit of, it's wishful thinking I think, for many on the soccer side.
Well, not to mention the look of the football lines does not.
Well, there
look
was
good
that too as well. I mean,
It's
the football
aesthetics.
painting was on the
Now they also, if they're going to continue, I think they got a couple more years before they build a new stadium there. Like, get a hybrid surface there. Like,
so
BMO stands up better than that.
Help me out. Glendale down in the stadium down in Glendale, suburban Phoenix. It has had this track where it just brings in the grass field and then is able to bring the grass field out on a track, so you're able to care for it without it being used by other tenants or other renters of the facility. I saw the Bernabeu in Barcelona where the grass pitch elevates from underneath.
It goes 4 stories down and is
Something
cared
like
for
that.
underneath.
Is it just the sheer expense of doing that is preventing? Because the technology is there to bring in a pitch-specific for one sport surface in some of these venues, I guess, where you have the space or where you're able to build down far enough.
The Bernabeu does do concerts and everything because of this now. I saw somebody do a deep dive on that. Apparently, you could, based on the investigation done, you could do the Bernabeu at BC Place, dig down, build a basement where you store this for $300 million.
It's a hefty chunk of change.
But then, of course, you don't own that building, so it gets complicated.
Yeah. And of course, for the Whitecaps, their quarrel with BC Place has less to do with the pitch. I mean, it's the visiting teams that have the bigger quarrel with the pitch.
Yeah.
The Whitecaps' quarrel with BC Place is getting a deal, a lease arrangement where they actually get some food and beverage revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
As Axel Schuster.
But again, beyond that, if you're playing football, American football, and soccer on a pitch in North America, and you wouldn't think this would necessarily be needed in California, but because of the wear and tear of American football, go hybrid. And for those that don't know, that means about 30% of the fibers that you see sticking up are artificial, but real grass growing amongst it. But it supports the real grass, so you don't get it chunked up like that. And when it rains, it has way more structural stability. So that's the no-brainer.
San Diego becomes just the second expansion team to reach a conference final in MLS history. The first was Chicago in 1998, and the Fire won it all that year. Kickoff is 6:15 at Snapdragon Stadium, and you will need Apple TV to watch this match, just like last week. You were telling me TSN gets MLS Cup if the Caps are in it?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're beginning to find out what Thomas Müller turned down in order to join the Caps. We know he said 9 to Cincinnati, but he also rebuffed an overture from his home club of Bayern Munich. German media reports today that Bayern had offered Müller basically a gap year. We would send him around the world for a year at our expense. After his contract expired last summer, he would have been able to visit top international clubs, get to know structures, make contacts, and prepare for future tasks in Bayern management. The report said it was a tailor-made career program exclusively for a club legend. They weren't going to do this for anybody else, of course. But apparently Müller did not feel ready for it. Quote, "He told me, not yet," said one of the German reporters, podcasters who had this report. And so he's playing this year for the Caps, and he's confirmed he wants to play next year as well.
He has confirmed that. I do wonder what winning MLS Cup would do for that equation. Like, if he scratched the itch so immediately, would he consider, job done? I've delivered here, or would he still want to come back? I don't know.
Well, I get the sense he likes living here.
From that standpoint, for sure.
BC Lions have their dates and opponents set for next season's Touchdown Kelowna games at the Apple Bowl. They'll play the Calgary Stampeders Saturday, June 27th in Kelowna. Then the Edmonton Elks a week later on Saturday, July 4th. Both kickoffs are 4 p.m. We know Amar Doman loves those 4 p.m. afternoon kickoffs. And, hey, this one works the other way, right? Gives the Lower Mainlanders enough time to get down to Kelowna and get back that night if they so choose. Lions, of course, losing access to BC Place for about 2 months as FIFA gets the stadium ready for 7 World Cup matches. So their preseason game will be at Starlight Stadium in Langford on Vancouver Island. They'll play a lot of road games early in the season, have a backloaded home schedule. We'll know the full thing tip to tail on December 9th when the CFL releases its 2026 schedule.
If you want to go up, I would book your hotel ASAP.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a busy time of year already in Kelowna.
Can you imagine what the beaches
and think about
would
staying
look like?
in Penticton.
Yeah, you could do it. Absolutely.
Vernon, Penticton. There's a lot of surrounding communities of Kelowna that work just as
Big
well.
White's
just
open for the summer now.
A bit of a longer drive on game day. Yeah. Lions re-signed Canadian defensive end Anthony Bennett, who joined in August, played 4 games, former Bomber and Red Black. Hard to find the Canadian depth at defensive end for Defensive Player of the Year, Metsia Betts, although it is far easier to find Canadian defensive ends. We've done a great job of producing this profile of the player, more so than it was in the days of Brent Johnson and Ricky Foley, where, I mean, it was to have 2 Canadian defensive ends to start was quite heady stuff back then. They also re-signed American wide receiver Jared Gibson. He caught 4 passes in the preseason. Monday nighter, where San Francisco beats Carolina 20-9. 49ers back level with Seattle on wins. 1 game back in the loss column. They do hold the head-to-head tiebreaker as of this moment, thanks to that win on opening day. Head-to-head does break ties within division in the NFL. It's the first tiebreaker. Seahawks would be the 5th seed if the playoffs started today, would play in Tampa Bay in the first round. We mentioned yesterday that Carolina had a lot to play for in that game last night, first place in the NFC South, but they were unable to get it done. Seahawks host the Vikings, the reeling Vikings, where J.J. McCarthy is having real trouble at quarterback. They did not threaten Green Bay very often last week. In fact, they've lost a couple of games in a row here to NFC North foes. The Vikings have. San Francisco is at Cleveland, where Shedeur Sanders, the son of Deion Primetime Sanders, starts at quarterback again, despite Dylan Gabriel being back healthy. Rams are at the Panthers, and of course, Carolina coming off the short week. It's Thanksgiving in the United States, so no buys this week. Every team is in action. 3 games Thursday. And then Friday, a battle of NFC Titans, he says, hopefully. Bears and Eagles? Hopefully.
I just hope the Seahawks stay aloft, and again, their schedule supports that they should be able to, in time for that meeting with the Rams and what the third last game of the season, where that could be for the division. That could be a lot of fun. But that's 3 more games between now and then, so they need to go at least 2-1, if not go 3-0.
Yeah, they, of course, Rams hold a tiebreaker over them for the minute right now. It's the 49ers in the last weekend of the season, and then Blake says it's the Rams on December 18th. Mm-hmm. And that's a Prime Video game. That's an Amazon game against the Rams on the 18th. That's a Thursday nighter. Football closer to home, we have the BC High School football finals set for this weekend. We always talk about the last organized tackle football games on the Canadian calendar each and every year. The AAA final this year between Tweedsmuir and Mowat. This is the first final for Mowat since 2011. Haven't won since 2005. We were both a little surprised by that. All the great football culture in Abbotsford, all the great players that have come out of Abbotsford.
My sources say this Moat team is something to behold. So,
I've seen some of the video and photos. Yeah. Boy, they look like big boys this year. At Moat.
Now they've had a closer run in the playoffs. They've faced the better teams in the playoffs, so the scores have been a little bit more respectable. They've put up like 70 points on teams this year, so we'll see.
The AA final is Argyle of the North Shore versus Vernon, who are a power. And these games are at BC Place on Sunday. Argyle and not that other school off the North Shore.
So the other schools on the North Shore in AAA. So
in the junior finals, and these go at McLeod Stadium in Langley on Saturday. AAA Belmont takes on Vancouver College, and AA Barsby versus Argyle. Chance for a sweep for Argyle.
Yeah, good for them.
Argyle, well done. Results of the Redwoods Golf Course poll questions, plural, from yesterday. We asked 5-2 loss to a 31st place team in the league, 5 points out of a playoff spot, 6 teams to jump. Is the Canucks season lost? Yes or no?
Yes,
what did those people say, Blake?
Yes, one.
Yes,
85.
You underestimate them. 91% said yes, the season is lost. Hassan, 15 years of kicking the can down the road. The bill is due. Stephen, almost American Thanksgiving, so yeah, they're done. Don't call it a rebuild. Call it getting the most for their assets. Let the other teams clean their teeth with the Canucks wishbone. Mastodon, by the pure numbers, it isn't, but it sure seems unlikely the Canucks will rise above this. Morbid Dork. Asking if a season is lost a quarter of the way through, y'all are pathetic. Ask that question 40 to 50 games in, fellas. We saw some of that.
The Bublé's burner account?
Ron, the Canucks would need to go 36-19-5 to get 96 points, which is the baseline this year to get in the playoffs. At the current rate, the team will have 71 points, the lowest amount since 99. This year is done.
What was the record that they would need to do? What did he do?
He's got it at 36-19-5.
That's a perfect example. 17 games above 500 the rest of the way. They are
or 14 if you're counting the loser column.
Yeah.
Sorry, 12 if you call.
And they're 3 games below 500 through 23 games right now. That's quite a swing, folks.
Second question was the Whitecaps win the most legendary win in Vancouver sports history. People said...
They would have said no.
Correct.
65.
66. Very good, Blake. Sheldon, it's definitely one of the most legendary moments. Stu, it was a great win, but they haven't won anything yet. Those who voted no cited the list that we cited yesterday. The golden goal, the 94 Grey Cup victory with Louis Pasaglia and the kick, the Alex Burrows dragon slaying game. But legendary was the operative word there, and many of you understood the exercise. Thank you for that. Yeah. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. Well, we wound up not getting Jeff on the show because they were about an hour delayed with that meeting, summit, whatever you want to call it, in Foote's office yesterday. Jeff will join us Thursday after the game against Anaheim. You at one point said 7 teams to jump in the playoff race. It's 6. And 30, we should mention, we brought you that Jackson Smith and Jigba stat. This is more omission than error. About the Seahawks receiver having 1,300 yards through 11 games, and this only been done like 4 times in NFL history. We should also mention the Seahawks are 31st in pass attempts in the league, Blake. Only one team throws the ball less than the Seahawks, and yet still Smith and Jigba is running away with the receiving yards.
That's crazy.
That is out of this world.
Yeah.
It's bonkers.
It also explains why the big gap with his teammates. That's
the other
Cooper
thing.
Kupp's probably thinking, can I get a few targets? And Sheed, too.
It's not often you see a receiver like tripling up his next closest teammate in receiving yards, which is possible if Smith and Jigba keeps on keeping on. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels. It costs you nothing. YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, just hit that follow button. On social, follow us, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky Live, many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, please do support all these community sponsors you hear us telling you about. And keep it local.